So good morning, everyone. Mayor Walsh, Councilor Asabi George, thank you for being here. Members of the Gemelli family and members of the Shanley family as well. Fellow veterans, ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to pay tribute to a great American and City of Boston hero, Sergeant Victor M. Gemelli, or as he was known to his comrades, Pa. Victor Gemelli, I'm not going to say much about him because the family is going to speak on his behalf. He enlisted in the United States Army at the ripe old age of 35. Vic was a larger-than-life figure here in Boston as well. He was the New England, what was it, the boxer? Yes. So we're going to remember him today. Sergeant Gemelli also kept a promise but never lived to see it. But that also will be told by the family how that happened. Hero Squares allows us to pay tribute and honor our fallen service members in a very visible and permanent way. The Hero Squares program is meaningful to the families and friends of the service member, as well as the community that they lived in. I would like everyone to please notice the gold star that's on the Hero Square. This gold star is a symbol that not only represents him, but also represents the family. This family, the Gemelli family, has been a Gold Star family since October 21st, 1944, almost 75 years ago. Being a Gold Star family is an honor that nobody wants. No wife wants to lose a husband. No father wants to lose a daughter or a son. No sister wants to lose a brother. And no brother wants to lose a sister. But it is proof that service members don't serve alone. Their families serve with them. This truly is a great nation, and it's wonderful that we dedicate Hero Squares to show everybody that passes through here that freedom comes with a price. There are still many fellow Bostonians today serving around the world. But Sergeant Gemelli made the ultimate sacrifice for this country. So a special thank you to the Gemelli family and the Shanley family. I commend you for all that you have done in memory of your loved one, Sergeant Victor Gemelli. Right now, I would like to introduce a person who truly cares and advocates for our veterans, their families, and also our service members. Our mayor, Mayor Martin J. Walsh.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I want to thank you and the Veteran Service Office for all your great work. To the family of Sergeant Victor Gemelli, I want to welcome you and thank you for being here today, and thank you for your sacrifice. I want to give a special shout out to Chief Jim Hooley of the City of Boston Emergency Medical Service. Thank you, Chief, as well. I know your family here, so thank you for everything here. To the veterans that are here, to the active service men and women, thank you as well for your service to our country and to our city. To the Dorchester community here that just came out or looking out the window, thank you for being here. Today is a special day in the City of Boston. I also want to thank City Councilor Asabi George, who joined us today to be here with us, who comes to all of our Hero Square rededications in the city. We're honored to help dedicate this square to Sergeant Victor Gemelli. I have some stories, and I apologize to the family if I take some of your stories, because I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll try not to say, but we should have coordinated beforehand. But Sergeant Gemelli was born in Boston, a resident of Dorchester. He was inducted into the United States Army on February 20th, 1941. He began his active duty that same day, so he came from these streets during a very different time in our world, signed up and went immediately into active duty. He was unfortunately killed in action in Germany in 1944. For his bravery and for his sacrifice, he was awarded several medals, including the Purple Heart. And if you get a chance, today, the young people here that have no connection to the family, look at this frame behind me and look at these medals. These are medals of real heroes. These medals are medals of real action. These aren't medals of winning MVP in a Super Bowl or in a hockey game. These aren't medals for doing certain things that you do. These are medals for actually putting your life on the line, and in this case, literally, Sergeant Gemelli put his life on the line. He made a promise when he signed up to protect his country and protect his neighborhood, and he absolutely fulfilled that promise. He made another promise to his niece Flo that he'd bring her back a nice soldier to marry. And Flo met her husband when Irv helped escort Sergeant Gemelli's body back to the United States. So Sergeant Gemelli kept his word. Flo unfortunately passed away earlier this year. I know her family's here, but she is reunited in heaven with her loving husband and her uncle. Today we honor Sergeant Gemelli's legacy of service in a very special way. We have 1,700 hero squares all across the city of Boston. They're at intersections that we walk down every single day. In our busy lives, we forget them. We don't notice them. They become part of the landscape. But they deserve to be noticed. Each hero square tells a story of a local hero, a young person that ran on these streets that we're standing on today and all over the city of Boston. It reminds us of the history of our neighborhoods and the residents who paved the way for freedoms for our city and our country that we enjoy today. We are in the process of upgrading all of our hero squares to include biographical information on our heroes, something that will be on every corner in our the city of Boston. We want them to be eye-catching so the people who stop and read them about the person that lived in their neighborhood and the service that that person gave to this country. Boston has a deep respect and admiration for our patriots, and we always will. We can never fully repay their sacrifice or their family sacrifice, but we can make sure that their legacies are remembered and honored no matter how many years go by. Hero Squares are a meaningful way to ensure they remain part of the community that our loved ones loved for years to come. We also honor the memories of our fallen heroes by taking care of our veterans that come home. Our Office of Veteran Services helps connect our veterans to housing, health care, education, and a job, and more. We're also looking to find new ways to support our veterans that put their life on the line for our country. We're making sure that no veteran is left behind on our streets here in Boston, and we're never going to miss a chance to say thank you. Our city shares an eternal gratitude for those who have fought for a better future for all of us. That gratitude is especially strong today as we remember the life and legacy of Sergeant Victor Gemelli. I want to thank his family for being with us today. I want to thank you all for joining us today. And let's just, when we leave here today, not just spread the word about Sergeant Victor Gemelli, but let's spread the word about the Hero Squares. Let's remind people when you're walking down the street, take a look up to the top of that pole. That pole represents a person who grew up in the neighborhood that you're in. That person put their life on the line and lost their life so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we have today. God bless all of you. God bless the city of Boston, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Mayor Walsh. And again, thank you very much for your dedication to our veterans and their families. At this time, I would like to call on everyone to please stand at attention as the Excel High School Color Guard presents colors.
Mark time. Mark. Ready, face. Color guard. Hold. Present. Arms.
At this time, if everybody could please recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms.
Right now, I'd like to call up Councilor Anissa Asabi George.
Parade. Rest.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, everyone, for including me in this celebration of love and service for Sergeant Gemelli. I especially appreciate the ROTC kids, JROTC students from Excel High School for joining us this morning, because it's often too easy to forget the sacrifice that our residents from the city of Boston have made for generations in serving and protecting our country. So it's my pleasure and my honor to be with all of you today, and thank you for including me.
Thank you, Councilor George. Right now, it's my honor to call up Chief James Hooley, who's a family member of Sergeant Victor Gemelli, to speak on behalf of the family.
Thank you, Commissioner. Hey, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I don't have the loudest voice, so let me know if you don't. I just want to thank everyone for joining the family, friends, and the neighbors of Sergeant Victor Gemelli as we celebrate his life and remember his sacrifice to our country 75 years ago this month, as well as the sacrifice that so many others of his generation has made. We thank our Mayor, Martin J. Walsh, our Veterans Commissioner, Rob Santiago, Darrell Miller. Darrell, my brother, where are you? Thank you for making this possible for everybody in this city. You do a great job with this. Thank you for making this possible. They see that Boston does not forget its veterans or their families. I've been given this opportunity to speak a little bit about Uncle Victor, and I have the honor of I married into the honor of being able to say Uncle Victor, because my wife Joanne is a Gemelli, and Victor was her uncle. So she gave me the opportunity to do that today, and I'm deeply honored for that. Victor Michelle Gemelli was born on Franklin Court in Dorchester on March 17, 1906. Franklin Court's a small little street down off of Norfolk Ave behind what used to be the Edison Yard down that section of Dorchester. The house isn't there anymore, but a small segment of the street still is. On February 20th, 1941, 2 months after the attack at Pearl Harbor, Victor enlisted in the United States Army. When he entered service, Victor was living at 44 Bellevue Street, that green three family you see right down there, with family members on every floor, which was pretty much the honored tradition in Boston growing up then. When we first lived in Dorchester, you had families on every floor of a three-decker. He was one of 4 brothers and sisters. Victor was working at the Manhattan Market grocery store over at Central Square in Cambridge. So like many generations of Bostonians, I can only imagine that he went down and rode the transit system to work, home and back and forth from Dorchester every day, just like everybody here still does. I suspect that he probably started working in the Upham's Corner Market down at Columbia Road. That was owned by the Sofrino family, who also opened up the market subsequently in Cambridge. He was 35 years old at the time when he enlisted, as the commissioner was saying. He was in terrific physical condition, as he was also a professional boxer who once held the lightweight championship of all of New England. He also instructed boxing while in the Army. Take a look at his picture over here, too. You can see for a guy who was in his 30s, he was pretty good shape. Victor served in the 15th Combat Engineer Battalion, 9th Infantry Division. His duties, in addition to demolition, construction, bridging, included clearing of mines and unexploded ordnance. His skill and exceptional leadership qualities led him to promotion to sergeant. The 15th Combat Engineer Battalion was highly decorated and had a storied record in combat. Victor started with the 15th at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. From there, they first saw action in North Africa in 1943, fighting with the 9th Infantry Division during the Algerian, French-Moroccan, Tunisian campaigns. Next, the battalion participated in the invasion of Sicily. With Sicily secured, hitting the beaches, doing a landing in Palermo in August 1943. With Sicily secured, the division then sailed to England and prepared for the Normandy invasion. He landed at Utah Beach on 10 June 1944. The battalion drove on through Cherbourg and later took part in the St. Louis breakthrough. He fought his way across France, entered and earned the battalion a battle streamer for its role in the Northern France campaign. In September, the battalion earned the Presidential Unit Citation for its actions on the Siegfried Line. Having fought across northern France, Victor continued on through Belgium and fought into Germany, his 6th major campaign. where on October 21st, 1944, he was killed in action clearing the mines. For his actions throughout his service, Victor was awarded the following: the Bronze Star Medal, the Purple Heart, the American Campaign Medal, European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with 1 Silver Battle Star, 1 Bronze Battle Star, and 1 Bronze Invasion Arrowhead, a Presidential Unit Citation, the Belgian Fourragere, and the World War II Victory Medal. Excuse me. Victor wrote many letters to his brother Joe and his wife Mary back in Boston while he was at war. His son David shared copies with his family, and I had a chance to look at a few of them. They were all notable in that he missed the simple activities of what was going on back home, and he really just wanted to know what was going on back here. He asked about family. He never spoke of the dangers he faced. He did speak of what he'd like to do upon his return. And there was a reoccurring message in a lot of his letters to tell his brother Joe to keep working, supporting the war effort at home, and telling him not to join the Army. In fact, his brother Joe did work manufacturing war materials, as did his brother Frank, Joanne and Victor's dad, Gemelli, who was an electrician who worked in the Navy shipyard, outfitting ships for the Navy. However, in reading the letters, I had a sense that Victor really wanted to do was to spare them the horrors that he was enduring. After he died, he was initially buried at the U.S. Cemetery in Belgium, Henri Chapelle. However, after some time, a couple of years after hostilities ceased, his family requested that his remains be brought home, where he rests today in the World War II section of Mount Hope Cemetery at Mattapan. There's more to that story in a moment. I'll let Victor's grandniece, Joan Shanley, speak to you about that and other remembrances of her great uncle. Before that, though, I want to recognize Sergeant Victor Gemelli's namesake, his nephew, Victor Gemelli, and his wife, Ginger, standing over here with 2 of their grandchildren. Victor was a young man who was given notice of induction back in the 60s when he was a young man during the Vietnam conflict. He went ahead and he enlisted in the Marines. Victor went and he served in Vietnam, and he was critically wounded, and he survived a landmine that was tragically similar to what ended the life of his uncle. Victor, today we're not only keeping faith with your Uncle Victor, we're keeping faith with his and your fallen comrades, but also we're keeping faith with you, all of you who have served, suffered, and survived. Thank you. Joan Shanley, would you please come up?
Our family wants to thank everyone for being here. Thank you, Mayor, too. We're greatly pleased that our Uncle Vic is being remembered today for the sacrifice he made for his country in World War II. My name is Joan Shanley, and my mother was the oldest niece of Uncle Vic. Although most of us never met Uncle Vic, he influenced our lives through the tremendous love that the generation before him demonstrated. His brother, Frank Gemelli, as you know by now, named a son Vic, and that's our cousin Vic. And my parents' plans had been to name their first child Victor. It was a very important name for us. However, I was born, and that didn't really work. And I'm sure they said, bummer. So they had a second child, and they were hoping, this one's going to be named Victor, but my sister Mary was born, and I'm sure they said, bummer again. And then their third child, they were planning, would be named Victor. But a big surprise was twin girls came along, Patty and Pamela, and I'm sure they said, bummer again, until the fifth child, and that was our brother Tom, who carries the middle name of Victor in honor of Uncle Victor. What I can tell you about is a great love story that survived beyond Uncle Vic's death in World War II. My mother, Florence Crespi, and Uncle Vic were very close, growing up in a strong Italian family. When Uncle Vic went off to war, Mom was in her 20s. She wasn't dating anyone. She wasn't in any serious relationship. But Mom often told us that before Uncle Vic deployed to Europe, he said to her, "Don't get married until I come home, because I'm going to bring you a nice soldier boy." And she laughed about that. When news came that Uncle Vic had been killed in action and he had been buried in the Henri Chapelle No. 1 cemetery in Belgium, I suspect Mom remembered what he said and thought of it as wishful thinking. However, God had other plans. After the war, the families were notified to see if they wanted the remains of relatives buried in Europe returned home. Uncle Vic's several brothers and sisters immediately responded and said that they wanted their brother back on U.S. soil. So the military made arrangements for his remains to be returned and kept the family informed of arrival dates, specifically the time that the number 10 train would arrive at South Station. The family was also informed at that time that his remains would be under the military escort of Staff Sergeant Irving Shanley. The Gemelli brothers greeted the number 10 train and with their very generous and warm hospitality invited Sergeant Shanley to stay for the memorial services and dinner afterwards with the family. It was during the services, while standing at attention near the casket, that Uncle Vic's niece, Florence, saw Irving. It was afterwards at dinner with the Gemelli family at Uncle Chippy's and Aunt Mary's home that Irving and Florence actually spoke. Within months, they were married and lived happily that way for 64 years until Irving passed in 2012. What we know for certain is that God honored Uncle Vic's desire to bring home a nice soldier boy to his niece, even if it was an escort for his remains. Mission accomplished, Uncle Vic. As a family, we thank Uncle Vic for making the supreme sacrifice so that our country could remain the land of the free, where people like my mom and dad could build a life and family together for over 6 decades. And as a nation, we thank all of our veterans, especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice, so that all of us in our country can have life together as one nation under God, at peace, with the assurance that our fallen heroes rest with God in our permanent homeland. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim and Joan. One thing I will say, leading up to this Hero Square dedication, I've been in contact with both Joan and Jim quite a bit, and also with Darrell Miller, and they have a lot of wealth of information on Sergeant Gemelli, and that's one of the things that we do great here in the city of Boston, is that we keep these heroes alive in one form or another. And right now, I'd like to invite the family to do the unveiling of the bioplaque. One of the things that we do great here in the city of Boston also is we not only dedicate a Hero Square, but we also include a biography plaque. And this biography plaque is for those who, as they're walking through the neighborhood, could read this biography plaque and learn a little bit about the hero that has the Hero Square named after him. We are the only city that does this, and I've had calls from other cities that would like to know how is it that we do it. But I'm going to read what the bioplaque says right now as they do the unveiling. Victor M. Gemelli was born on March 17, 1905 in Boston, Massachusetts. As a resident of Dorchester, Victor was inducted into the United States Army on February 20th, 1941, and began active duty that same day. Victor served as a sergeant with the Army. On October 21st, 1944, Victor Gemelli was killed in action in Germany. For the heroism displayed in his service to our country, Victor was awarded the American Campaign Medal, World War II Victory Medal, and the Purple Heart. Victor was survived by his parents, John and Angeline Gemelli, who are residents of Dorchester. Thank you. Thank you to the Boston Police column. Also, what I want to let everybody know, if you see on that bio plaque, there is a QAR code. If you want more information on Victor Gemelli, which there is a lot of information on this hero, you could click on that QR code, and it directs you to a webpage of Sergeant Gemelli. At this time, I'd like to retire colors.
Carry. Colors. Mark time. Mark. Ready. Face. Forward. Mark.
Thank you again to the Excel High School Color Guard. At this time, this concludes our ceremony. Again, thank you all very much for attending and for honoring Sergeant Victor Gemelli. Thank you.